Today, we are going to be watching a video called The Moral Argument Proves God. I don't know what the moral argument is or how it supposedly proves God, so we're going to watch this and find out if that's true.
Can you be a good person without believing in God? Let's think about it. Well, has there ever been a single atheist who did something good in the world or something to help someone else? The answer, of course, is yes. So you can be good, meaning
Holy mother of jump scare, what are these clips this dude is using?
doing good things, even if you don't believe in God. But the real question is a bit different. Can you be good if there is no God at all?
Yes, and also, if there is a God, specifically the Christian one, technically you can't be good since Jesus declares in the Bible that none except the Father are good. So, sorry, buddy.
Well, isn't that the very same question? No, it's actually a very different question. You see, here's the tricky part. If there's no God, then how do we decide what's really good or bad?
We use empathy and reason. We first use empathy and then we use reason. I think those two things work together very well. You see, pal, I don't know you, and frankly, I don't really care about you as a person. But I do care about you in some abstract sense that I would not want bad things to happen to me. Therefore, generally speaking, I would not want bad things to happen to you. If enough of us get together and decide that a certain thing is bad and we don't want that to be happening to people, we make laws based on that. That's how societies are formed. And it turns out every society in the history of the earth has eventually decided things like killing other people is wrong or stealing is wrong. So we're pretty good at determining what is good or bad.
If God doesn't exist, then there aren't any clear universal rules about right or wrong.
No, if God does exist, there aren't any clear universal rules about right or wrong. I don't think there are in any case, and I think Christians can't argue that there are because there's always an asterisk with it. I mean, Moses comes down from the mountain bearing some tablets. One of them says, "Thou shalt not kill." Now, if you want to be technical, it's "thou shalt not murder." Murder is the unjustified killing, but what's justified is, I guess, up to the beholder, correct? So Moses comes down from the mountain with rules saying, "Thou shalt not murder," and then he sees people worshiping a golden calf. What happens next? Or is it bronze? Whatever it is. He throws the tablets to the ground and kills 3,000 people. So, or murders, you could say. I mean, again, it's hard to say what justified means in this context. Is it wrong, for example, to quote unquote, let's see, I want to phrase this in a way that doesn't make YouTube mad. Is it wrong to murder babies? That will probably help a lot, but to murder babies. I mean, I think everyone can agree that an infant is essentially innocent. Infants can do no wrong, can they? Christians especially go with this claim. So, when God flooded the entire world and murdered every infant, was that right or was that wrong? See, that's a very good question, isn't it? But, of course, I guess if you believe that God is the cosmic judge, then it was right. So would it be right if a human did it? Well, yeah, see, what's universal about these rules if they don't apply universally?
Without God, there's nothing absolute that tells us how to act. It's like not having a rule book to play a certain game. Look, if there's no rule book, can you really be expected to play a game by the rules?
If the rules contradict very heavily, it's not going to be a very fun game. Imagine playing a game where the rules are always changing, where the rules are never the same, where the rules always have an asterisk. I'm sure there are games like that, by the way. If anybody knows any games like that, tell me in the comments because that might actually be kind of fun. But for a worldview, that's not terribly fun. At least as an atheist, I have the ability to choose my own ethics and system of morality, which does not really contradict itself.
Imagine you and your friends can't agree on the rules of a game. Without rules, everyone just does what they think is best. But no one's idea is more right than anyone else's.
I mean, Christians do this too, though. Like, think about how many denominations of Christians there are and what they agree and disagree on in terms of what is sinful. They can all agree on certain things, that is true. They can all agree that murder is wrong. But they can't all agree on what exactly murder is. A great number of them can agree on things like being gay is wrong. Some of them disagree there too. There is no agreement, and they're all based on the same book.
Can you picture that? That's what it's like if there's no God. Everyone has their own opinion about what's good or bad.
No, we have that anyway.
But there's no way to say who's right. It's like everyone liking different flavors of ice cream. Just because you like strawberry doesn't mean everyone should.
It's amazing how close they come to getting the point and understanding the point, and then they just, stroll away from it like nothing happened.
In a world without God, there's no way to say for sure that something is good or evil. Everything just is as it is without any meaning behind it.
Correct. But that's how it is anyway, regardless of whether there is a God or not. For humans, from the human perspective, that's how it is, because God, if he exists, may have been directly communicating with humans a long time ago, but they still couldn't agree then. But let's assume they did. He's not doing it anymore. He's not coming down to solve our arguments and petty problems. It's all up to us now.
But if God exists, then God's nature and commands give us a clear guide to do what's good.
No.
For instance, God teaches us to love others, which helps us see why being kind and fair is good, and why being selfish or mean is bad.
Well, that's lovely. I assume that means that the person who made this video supports trans rights and gay rights and abortion debate, how to defeat the pro-choice argument. 23 celebrities who were almost aborted. The unborn is fully human. Pro-life rap. Stand up. Okay.
The idea here is pretty straightforward. God decides what is good based on the fact that he is good himself.
Well, that just solves everything, doesn't it? Hey, did you ever think maybe people have some dispute with the idea that God is good himself? For example, in the Bible, as I just said before, he kills everybody. I don't think that's too good, and probably neither do you.
Think of it like this. If a band sounds just like their live show when you listen to their recorded music, that's a great recording. Similarly,
I think that's an oversimplification. I think maybe this guy has never really been to a proper music thing before, because I have seen bands that sound nothing like their recorded albums, and it's way better. I've seen that a lot, actually. So I think this guy really needs to go to some shows, actually. Some shows without bands that have, Christian before every subgenre, perhaps.
the closer what we do is to how God would do things, the better it is. But if someone believes that there is no God, which is what atheism is about, then they don't have a perfect standard.
What do you mean, which is what atheism is about? Atheism is simply not believing in God or actively disbelieving in God. It's not about those things. Atheism just is those things. What does that mean?
For deciding what's right and wrong. Who would tell us how to act if there's no God? Well, nobody. For people who don't believe in God, humans are just a part of nature.
Humans are just a part of nature no matter what. I mean, we are literally animals. We are literally apes. We are a part of nature. You can't separate humans from... We are nature, regardless, whether you believe in God or not. We are nature.
Animals that evolved. And animals don't really think about right or wrong. A cat isn't doing something bad when it catches a mouse. It's just being a cat.
Humans have something cats don't. We have the ability to reason. And I think this is an oversimplification anyway, because I do think animals in a lot of cases show empathy. Maybe not completely, maybe not in the same way that humans do, but animals obviously do have feelings of some kind or another, and some of those feelings include feelings similar to what we would call empathy. So it's not really as simple as he's making it seem, is it?
If there's no God, some might say we should see human actions the same way, that nothing is really right or wrong. But here's the catch. Things like fairness, goodness, and justice do seem very real to us.
There is, of course, a distinction to be made between seeming real and being real. These are two very different things. Things can seem real and not be real. Things can be real and not seem to be real. I think that's a very important thing, and he's probably not going to make note of that.
Every time you feel something is unfair or wrong, like someone being mean or cheating, or if someone came and just stole your wallet, you're really saying you believe there's a right way to act. Without God,
You can believe there is a right way and a wrong way to act based on your empathetic position. I don't see why this is so hard for these people to grasp. It's really not that difficult, my guy.
we wouldn't have a solid basis for all these feelings about right and wrong.
I don't think we have a solid basis for this anyway. I mean, the Bible can't tell you who is right and who is wrong in a situation. Think about like people with personality disorders. I've known a lot of them. I probably am one, probably BPD or something like that. Very well controlled, thankfully. But think about like personality disorders. My family is full of them. And in those situations, everybody thinks they're right. Nobody ever thinks they're wrong. Um, and of course, they all believe in the Bible. How can we determine which one of them is right and wrong based on the Bible? Well, we can't. We can't determine that. We have to determine that based on other things like personal judgment, like in every situation in human history.
That seem to apply to everyone, everywhere. So, what does this all mean? Well, there's something called objective morality and objective moral values. Objective morality means there is a standard outside of us which exists for what is good and what is bad. An example might be rape or torturing infants for fun.
Why do they always go to like this kind of example? Is it because it's that garish that like it makes people go, well, yeah, that has to be objectively wrong? But like the universe doesn't give a shit. Only humans do. Does an animal give a shit if this happens? No, humans do. These things are all determined by humans. There is no right and wrong when it comes to morality except for what humans decide. And thankfully, we have indeed decided, for the most part, that kind of thing is bad.
To say that objective morality exists is to say that these sort of things are wrong, regardless of our culture and regardless of our laws.
Boy, I have some bad news for you about the Bible, specifically the part where after Moses, they go into the Holy Land and slaughter the Canaanites. Boy, do I have some bad news for you about that, which was demanded by God, by the way.
This says that there are things that are right and things that are wrong, again, like rape or torturing babies for fun.
Oh my God, stop saying that.
These things would be considered wrong regardless of our culture or where we come from or how we grew up or our personal opinions. Does this objective morality, this right and wrong, actually exist? What do you think?
I think in some senses, because humans are evolved to be a social species, to be a collaborative species, a community building species, I think it does go against something sort of like inherently in us to do somebody else harm in a certain way. Now, is that the case across all of humanity? Well, no. Different cultures, different societies evolve in different ways. There are some tribes, I've read some books recently to say there are some tribes in like Papua New Guinea and the Amazon who just like, they live by some very harsh rules. It's whatever you can get away with is good because it helps you to survive. So to them, things like murder and rape are not wrong. Now to us, to our sensibilities, those things are very wrong. But because this is the only way they know how to survive, it's not wrong to them. Now, how am I to judge them because I've never faced situations like that? I don't know what it means to survive in a situation like that. I just know that I live in a society, thankfully, where we don't have to do stuff like that to survive, where we have a much more collaborative model of society, which I think is the norm across humanity. I think these sorts of like Amazon tribes, Papua New Guinea stuff. I think these are very far outliers among humanity, and I think that's a good thing. But I think that the most successful mode of society is the one where we work together. I think that has proven true over and over in human history. So I think that does tell you, like, there is something inherent in us that, like, makes us care about our species and its survival, makes us care about each other. at least our tribe at the very least. And that's probably true in the Amazon as well to some extent. So yeah, I think there is something in us. Does that make it objective? Well, no, that doesn't make it objective, but it does make it just kind of like there.
If they are truly wrong, if they are wrong outside of just our opinions or what our society says is wrong, if they are wrong outside of what our laws say, then you would be saying that there is a standard of right and wrong which exists outside of us.
Well, yeah, it's called the law. I don't want to violate the law because I don't want to go to jail. But I like to point out, like, what I think who Penn is it that said it? I mean, Christians are always like, well, if there is no God, if there's no moral lawgiver, why don't you just rape and murder as much as you want? And he's like, well, I do. When the number is zero, then I don't do that stuff because I don't want to do that stuff. The number is zero. If you are being held back from doing things like that just because you believe in God, I hate to break it to you, you're a psychopath.
And you would also be saying that that standard of right and wrong outside of us actually exists. And if you are saying that, then the question is, who set that standard up?
Well, why does it need to be a who exactly? I mean, let's say that there are some objective moral standards. Okay, that's great. I would question how we know that, first of all, but let's say there are. If there are, why does that have to be God? Very curious. Why does it have to be that? Because there are atheists who do believe in objective moral standards. Now, I think they're wrong, of course, but they are out there.
And this question points to the existence of God. This is critically important to understand. So what I am saying is, if objective moral values and objective morality actually exist, that proves that God, who put that there, actually exists.
No, it doesn't. It just doesn't. People can believe in objective morality standards, and I can give you one easy justification for objective moral standards. That thing I just mentioned about humans maybe having something inherent in us for the most part that says doing bad things to other people is wrong. We do have that, probably from billions of years of evolution. It led to us. We're a collaborative species. We work well in communities. To do things that are harmful to the tribe is bad to us. That could be a source of what we call objective morality. Do I believe in that? Well, no, I don't think it's objective if that's the case, but I could see a rationale for believing that.
So if there is even one thing that is objectively wrong, that proves that God exists.
No, and I don't think we have proven there is a single thing that is objectively wrong.
So that would mean that objective moral values do exist. Now for the moral argument. It is a three-part argument and goes like this.
Oh, Lord.
First part, if God does not exist, then objective moral values and duties, doing things you ought to do not exist. Second part, objective moral values do exist. And the third part, therefore, God exists.
Okay, before he goes on, let's break this down a little bit. If God does not exist, then objective moral values and duties do not exist. I don't think we've shown this is the case at all. Do I believe that that is the case? Well, yes, I do believe that as a matter of fact, but I don't think we have for sure shown that. I think that's a matter of subjective personal opinion, the first one. The second one is objective moral values and duties do exist. Well, no, I don't think we have shown that either. Do I think it is the case that objective moral values and duties do exist? Well, no. I think we have yet to show that. That's an assertion. 3, therefore God exists. I think that is a non sequitur entirely.
So again, if there is even one thing that is objectively wrong, no matter what culture you were raised in, or no matter who you are, if those things are actually objectively wrong, if anything can be considered objectively wrong, that proves that God exists.
No. Also, that Jesus guy that just appeared. I mean, let's just go back a little bit. I want to see if we can see this guy.
Objectively wrong, that proves that.
Does that look like Jesus to you? I mean, that doesn't look like Jesus, or that looks like some dude, doesn't it? That looks like my friend Sean. Why is he saying my friend Sean is apparently God?
God exists. Well, someone might give a counter argument and say that society is the one that dictates something being right or wrong. But some societies love their neighbors and some societies eat their neighbors. Are they both just as right?
I think it's very hard to say who is right or wrong in a situation unless you've walked a mile in their shoes, as I said about the Amazon tribes. Am I glad I was born in a society where I don't have to survive like some of them do? Yes, certainly. Am I going to judge them extremely harshly for their actions they take to survive? No. I think the murder thing, well, that's really hard to judge because I don't know what they face. I've never faced what they face. When it comes to things like rape, obviously I look down very strongly on that. So there is no situation in which I would encourage that or think of that in any way as being anything other than terrible. But with this tribe, with these tribes, I don't know what they have to go through to survive. In some cases, I guess killing your enemies before they can kill you is probably a pretty good strategy. But again, I am glad that I live in a society where I don't personally have to do that. But I guess even in America, probably a lot of people have to do that. Certainly, like the mafia thought of themselves that way. They think of themselves as like soldiers in a war. Do I think they're right? Well, no. But does it matter what I think? I mean, they're the mafia. They had the power.
Did Hitler do anything wrong during the Holocaust?
I think so.
Not if there's no God.
How can you say that? I mean, so let me get this straight, guy giving this argument. If there is no God, you personally think the Holocaust was A-OK. I think that's the best way to break it down here. Because I know if I were to have this guy right in front of me and I would say, so like, let's say there is no God. You think the Holocaust was fine? He'd be like, well, of course not. Well, there we have it.
Again, if there's no God, then who says that what Hitler did was wrong?
Me, I say that. I say Hitler was wrong. That's all it needs to be. It doesn't have to be anything else. I think Hitler was wrong. Boom. There we go. That's it. I mean, but you know, I want to add something else before we like progress a little bit here. Earlier on, the guy pointed to honesty as being like an objective moral truth. What does honesty mean in this case? Because I have met some Christians who I've asked the question. So let's say you're hiding a Jewish person in your basement or attic or whatever, and the Nazis came and said, do you have a Jewish person here? Will you tell the truth or lie? A lot of these people will say, well, I would tell the truth. I would have to tell them that there is a Jewish person here, even if it cost me everything. I would have to tell them because I can't tell a lie. And it's like, chill out, Honest Abe. So what is honesty in that situation? I think the honest thing to do, in my subjective opinion, is to save a life. I think that to save a life from unjust oppression is more honest than always necessarily telling the truth. I don't think it's wrong to lie sometimes. People who are religious, they think it's wrong to lie all the time. And yet, even they lie. They'll say stuff like Santa was real. Now, that is a lie. It's a fun one. It's a fun little cutesy lie, but it's still a lie, isn't it? You tell a child Santa's real, you're lying. So you can do that, but you can't say, no, officer, there's no Jewish person here. Now, that may seem like a silly argument on its face, and I admit it kind of is. But I think there's also a good point to it. I mean, all of these things are conditional, all of them. They don't see telling a child that Santa is real as a real lie. But if they say, like, no, there's no Jewish people here, that's a real lie. So honesty. What does it mean to be honest? I think to say that there is a Jewish person here, if you're hiding one, I think that's dishonest. This person has entrusted you with their life, and you are betraying that trust. That's far worse than just telling a Nazi prick, no, there's nobody like that here. Of course not.
An honest atheist cannot say anything is objectively right or wrong, because according to an atheist's worldview, there is no single thing that can be considered actually objectively wrong.
Why does this guy just say the same thing over and over? I think we're going to stop here because this guy is adding nothing new. He's just rephrasing the same thing like over and over at this point. He's been doing this over and over, like repeatedly. Just same thing. And of course, every time I have a new rebuttal for him, but I figure, hey, there's only a minute left out of this. No point in continuing. I don't know what this guy's point was. I know he probably wouldn't wrap it up very well, so who cares? But yeah, these videos, they're always so silly. Like, they just make assertions, just assert, like they're just true, like no matter what. It's very odd, very non sequitur esque a lot of the time. Like they'll use these arguments, like that 3-part moral argument before, where it's just unproven assertion, non sequitur. Very odd people. But thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Thanks for being here. I hope you have a great one.